All righty, another great thebigvirushoax.com Zoom meeting, and I have Dr. Fernanda Derleen, who's in Arizona, right?
Correct, Sedona, Arizona.
All right, so the floor is yours, doctor. You contacted us through the site, and you're doing some great things. You're a trooper and a warrior. And so go ahead, I want to just give you the floor here and give us, your background, let people know who you are. This is an opportunity to do that. Where you're from, your education, your areas of study, your areas of expertise, what your career is and everything. Go ahead and let us know.
Okay, in a nutshell, I'm originally from Brazil. I've been a US citizen for over 20 years now, very patriotic, love this country and all the opportunities I've had. I have 4 college degrees. My latest one is a doctorate of acupuncture and Chinese medicine from PCOM in San Diego. And also after that program, I completed the postdoctorate cannabis coach certification. And really because I wanted to educate people on all the benefits and also the things that can go wrong with certain cannabis use. But more than that, my passion is really holistic healing. And all my schooling has led me to this time in my life to really preach what comes from my heart and to share with people that, they can be healthy. There is that option. And I was really just hiding away, living in Sedona, doing my health retreats and allowing people to come here and take time to find their own answers on their own, to have a secluded time, to have a one-on-one coaching time, and offer them acupuncture, meditation, yoga, nutrition, past life regression, whatever it takes for that particular person, as we're all in different times in our lives with different needs. My goal was always to cater to that unique person as they came. So living my life here and doing what I love. And really, I had already sold my business in California. So this particular career that I'm doing now, it's out of passion and something that, I'm doing out of love and because I want to do this. But I do have another side business that, thank God, is, my main income, because lately, is just put me on a path to like, what do I really want to do in this chaotic world? Because up until now, it was, everything's great. In fact, last year, COVID max year, was the most retreats I've ever had. I was sold out. Like if I didn't take a day off for myself, I would have worked every single day. So I know that there's a need, and I saw it in my clients, the desire to heal in a more natural, holistic manner. I end up, usually acupuncturists are, the end game, like they've tried everything, then they come see us acupuncturists as a last resort. So I only have 3 or 5 days with each guest here, and I give my best, but it's a lifestyle health, right? And I saw on your website, it's like, once you didn't drink, right? You didn't get sick. Yeah. So there's a certain partnership that has to take on to this journey of not just, all right, give me a pill, give me a to-do list, because it's not that. It's like, here is just the beginning. They arrive here, we look at each person's situation, what's going on. And if they don't make the commitment on their end, I don't have a magic wand. But lately what happened was I simply just put on my website, at first, that we're mask free. Like, I've not worn a mask this whole entire time. And, the only time I had to wear one was going to Florida over the winter. And I wore a knitted mask just to make a point. I don't know how I got away with it, but I did.
That's great.
So that was really the only mask I ever wore. And, Chinese medicine, like, we are all about allowing the body to find a balance, to find that healing, but we have to offer the right conditions for the body to go into healing mode. And in my book that came out last year, I talk about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And we live in a world that we're just bombarded by stressors. So the sympathetic nervous system is constantly wondering, where's the lion coming from, right? And you go into this flight, fight, or freeze mode. And, and nowadays, even if it's just a bad text or a bad email or somebody cuts us off in traffic, that whole sympathetic nervous system just thinks it's a lion. It doesn't even know it's a bad text message. then we are not taking time for activating the parasympathetic nervous system that allows the body to go into that healing mode. So that's what I do here at the retreat center, is offer that opportunity to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, whether it's through the yoga, the meditation, the acupuncture, cupping, all the different things, even just going for a slow walk around here. So, and these are tools that I want to give people so that they remember, look, your first option is not go take a pill or go see a doctor who's going to barely ask you the hour and a half intake I do here with each person. So I've been doing this. It's been great. I love my work. And because I put that little banner on my website saying no mask and recommending if you have a vaccine, let's call it the shot, that this is probably not your ideal place, right? It's basically my home, my business. I sold my big business in California, thank God, got out of that. And now it's like, I get to do what I want and what's healthy for me. So with that banner on my website, I've been traveling through the summer, just kind of having fun, taking a road trip to activate my parasympathetic nervous system, went to Montana, Yellowstone. And amidst all that, my assistant tells me that there was, somebody put a post on Twitter about my banner, and in one day, Mike, my website has been pretty quiet. I just see one person a week here. It's like, this is all I need. I got 5,000 viewers on my website in one day.
Just from that.
Yeah, just from that. And it was a bad bash, right? And they're asking everybody in their group to go on Google and Yelp and leave me bad reviews, despite they have never even been here, even asked to come to my retreat center, saying that I do not allow people who are vaccinated to take part of my retreats here in Sedona. Right. And the truth is, I've never actually declined anyone, but lately I had been feeling a little bit like something's not right. Like my health just felt a little wacky, and I can't pinpoint too much if it was because of interaction with people with the shot or not, or it could be anything, but I just had to take time. And I, even did some plant medicine, took 3 days, like connecting with divine, with just give me the message, like, what do I need to do at this point? It's not about ego. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's what's in my highest good at this point. I get to choose what I believe. And I, at that time, I still had a couple of clients already booked who told me on their form they're vaccinated. So I didn't turn anyone away. And I still have some that are signed up that I have to decide, like, is this in alignment? Not so much because I'm going to be physically affected. I think I have a big energy field that transcends what's even explainable in our English language, that I can, hold my field pretty well. I'm not really kissing these people or exchanging any bodily fluid with them. So I feel pretty safe in that aspect. But there's another aspect, is really where they are in their lives and their views right now. It's like, is this even a place you want to come? Because if you're going up to get a shot that you don't even know what's in, and you want to come to a holistic retreat center, right, it's, I'm going to be sharing stuff with you, which is probably not going to align with what you're choosing for your life. So yeah,
they're polar opposite realities.
Yeah, so it's like, let's not just waste each other's time. Really, I don't have any judgment against you. On the contrary, I actually feel sorry because they didn't know. A lot of my past clients, I didn't go too much into the conversation because I don't, it's too late now in a way. But, I'm no one to tell anybody what to do and not to do. At this point, I'm just at a crossroad on what is my place on this planet? How can I be of service with my beliefs and my values, and what's good for my entire family? We all live around here. I have a grandson who's 5. Everybody's watching. And I want to welcome people here who feel this is a place for them. And being attacked, and I have some voicemails. I haven't really listened because my assistant only shows me the good reviews, but some of them, emails, hate emails. And I'm thinking, wow, if all that energy you're putting towards something you're against, why don't you put towards something you're pro, right? And it's just, I've never been attacked like that. And I followed Dr. Christiane Northrup, and man, she's my idol because she puts up with some stuff. And she reminded me to not even watch those things or read those things, to really just laugh, because there's no room for darkness right now, connect with the light. So in summary, that's what brought me to contact you to share that I'm a small business. I'm just doing my own thing here. I have just a couple of employees, and and it's nice to have the support to see all your material out there.
Do you want to throw out where you're located as far as your business and your practice? So like, how would people find you? Where do they go? What do they do?
Yes, thank you. My website is sedonaranch.org. I am in Sedona, Arizona. I'm actually in a pretty remote area, and we're gated, triple gates with codes. So it's pretty safe out here, surrounded by hundreds of acres of land and national forests. So it's a very remote, nice, prestigious area to come and take time alone. And everybody who comes here, before they arrive, I have a full intake form. We do a session where I get to know what their needs are, because I've never treated anybody as a one shoe size fits all. I really want their time to be here, to be for them, what's going on for them, and how we can work together to integrate new tools for their lives.
So the ideal thing is for people to contact you through your website.
Yes, I have a form now. I removed my phone number because it just got a little bit much. And people can send a submission form through the website, and my assistant has been filtering them for me. What's relevant, she sends right to me. What's not, she discards. So, and we respond between 2 to 3 days.
Right. Now, can you elaborate a little bit for viewers, right, that will see this video that might not understand much even about the idea of, the sympathetic nervous system, right? Just elaborate on that a little bit so people can better understand what you're getting them in tune with.
Sure. And by the way, all this that I'm explaining about the sympathetic nervous system is on my book, and I offer it for free. Anybody who sends me on the submission tab on my website a request, on the website, I have a members only page. You don't have to buy my book. I'm not even here to try to sell it. It's really share the information, and I'll send you the password so you can read the book for free.
Yeah, is it an ebook or a paperback or both?
Well, I have an ebook on Amazon and a paperback for sale on Amazon, but anybody who wants to just get it for free, I'll send a PDF file.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah. So there's acupuncture, Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicines known as TCM. The goal is to bring balance to the body, right? So you've heard the terminology yin and yang. And whenever we have too much yang, right, too much heat, too much speed, all that's busy, we want to calm it down by elevating the yin. And
for the record, ngo sikong siu siu zhongman yan wai gong ge tai tai hai zhong go yan.
Well, you'll have to teach me. I had to learn 450. You were way ahead of me. I only know Chinese herbs.
That was a little Cantonese. My first wife, God bless her, passed away when she was 29. She was from Hong Kong. So in my youth, when I met her, she taught me how to speak Cantonese. I was getting pretty fluent with it at the time. That was a whole lifetime ago. That was, 30 years ago. She passed at 29, unfortunately.
Wow. So
but yeah, every occasion I like to, not only am I drinking my ginseng tea, but I had to throw out a little bit of Cantonese there, right?
Thank you. Yes. So, and we have great Chinese herbs. Even, it's been very, a lot of different opinions on it, but Chinese medicine has great herbs for any kind of cold, or virus.
And do you deal in herbs as much as you do the acupuncture?
Yes, I really believe in the integration of acupuncture treatment with the herbs. It's just like, it just gives you that boost on your treatment. And anybody that comes here, I just suggest, I never want to force anything, but I take herbs myself for different things. Nothing is long-term, which I really appreciate in Chinese medicine. These herbs are maybe a month max, 3 months max. None of them are really recommended long-term. Right. So it gets you off of that idea that you have to be on a certain pill for the rest of your life. Yes.
So again, can elaborate a little bit again for people that are watching that don't necessarily, because you were talking about the getting in touch with, the sympathetic nervous system, and you really kind of hone in on that for the benefit of people, watching, so they can get a real good feel for, what you're doing to help people get in touch with that.
Yes. Well, first and foremost, as
like
we all
what it
know,
is, what it is, so people understand, what it means to them?
So your central nervous system has, the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system.
So explain those for the benefit of the viewers.
Yeah, so the sympathetic nervous system is also known as your gas pedal. So imagine when something hits, you get nervous, or a message comes in, anything, you get activated, right? Just like you would in the old days if you're living in the jungle and you hear a noise in the bushes. That's your sympathetic nervous system that's going to kick in. And it's taken, so many years for our bodies to develop these things, because if you're in the jungle and you hear a noise, if you hadn't had those alerts developed in you, you would just stand still and maybe you get killed by a lion. But because we have these memories in our body, so the sympathetic nervous system will alert us before we can even rationalize anything. It'll be like, oh my gosh, there's probably something that could kill me in the jungle.
So kind of the fight or flight.
Yeah, so
reality.
then your body will choose, and everybody's different. I've tested myself in different situations just to see what would come up. And I was surprised that when I thought I could run, my legs froze and I couldn't move. So for different people, the sympathetic nervous system is going to kick in a different gear. It's not the same for everybody. What I see at my retreats here, and I've been doing this since 2015, is mainly women with autoimmune diseases. And they've tried all the medications. Of course, that didn't work, because autoimmune diseases come up when the body is fighting against its own self. Now you would ask, why would that happen? If you just think for a moment, when the body doesn't know what else to do, it kind of says, hey, dude, I've tried everything. Now I'm going to turn against you. So I have people here with different things like fibromyalgia, lupus, diseases that our Western medicine can't even touch because they can't explain. But in Chinese medicine, we know that there's an imbalance in the body. The body just, let's call back that sympathetic nervous system, is just stuck on the gas go. And if you have a car that you're just driving full on with the gas pedal down, it's going to burn the energy. It's just going to die at some point. The same thing is for our bodies when we keep activating the sympathetic nervous system over and over again. And that can be diet, poor diet, right? Chemicals in our lotions, foods, different things, stressors, work, media, right? All kinds of things that come our way. Those are all little things that added up are just continually adding to the sympathetic nervous system to be activated. Luckily, we sleep, but there are other ways to activate the parasympathetic nervous system besides sleep. And that's what I want to share with my guests is yoga, meditation, a brisk walk, right? Healthy foods. These are different things that acupuncture. These are things that help to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, because if you're just pushing the sympathetic, it's out of balance. Remember, TCM aims to bring balance. So if you're going to...
So I'm sorry. So again, we understand the sympathetic nervous system is kind of that fight or flight, right? We're going to react. We're going to be impressed by something. And so a little bit of an elaboration on parasympathetic in terms of a definition.
Sure. So the parasympathetic is known as the rest and digest. So if we bring back that metaphor about the lion, we got the lion, we used all of our response, we ran, or we got the weapon and killed it, done. Then the parasympathetic nervous system would kick in when we're sitting around the fire, talking about the hunt, laughing, eating the meats, and just celebrating. So the parasympathetic nervous system is what I believe it's missing in most people's lives, to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. I lived that life. I have my story written in the book. I used to own a preschool for 10 years and a yoga studio, and I had 3 young children. So I was the typical doer, right? I lived in Orange County, California. The more you do, the better you are. And I was all in. And one day my heart just started having all kinds of issues, numbness in my arm, dizziness. And I was only 35. And my doctor said, you're the youngest person here. If you don't change your life, then you're going to have issues with your heart. That's why I changed my life. And that's because I wasn't having enough of that parasympathetic, that rest and digest, that just smell the flowers, look at the view, breathe, right? Why are we not taught these skills in life, right? Why isn't in high school something where we learn to meditate? Why don't we learn how to grow our gardens? Why are all these foundation skills that we need for our survival, for our well-being, not being taught? in our schools or anywhere really. We have to wait until we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, or even my guests are in their 70s and come here so ill and so unhappy because they lost all their tools. So I really, that's why I put out the book and I offer for free is here's some tools. There are a million tools out there, and at different times in our lives we need different things. I don't have all the answers. I can only share what I've seen work for me and my clients.
I just put on mute there. Whenever there's some noise in the background, I want to mute myself out while you're talking. So is it fair to say when your clients come to you, they're coming to you so that you can share with them techniques, and can you give us a general idea of how you might work with your clients that are coming to see you to try to get more in touch with that parasympathetic, which, by the way, I tell you that I've always heard of the sympathetic nervous system. I don't know that I've ever really understood the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, and that's why I wanted you to explain it, even for my own better understanding. So certainly many people will watch the video and just kind of hear you talking about it and not necessarily know what you're talking. So you did a great job of explaining it for people to understand that what the sympathetic nervous system is. It's funny that this is kind of the focal point of the conversation right now, because just yesterday, I'm trying to remember who I was talking to, but we were talking about nerves, and as a musician, I was telling them, if I could just remember who that was and what they were telling me. But what I told them was, yeah, I know what you mean, because when I'm out playing, if I'm just in a totally relaxed, having a good time, like I know people are just there to enjoy themselves and they're just there to enjoy the music, and I know how to play, I know how to sing, so I'm just having a good time playing and singing, everything goes great, man. My fingers don't get tight, my voice doesn't crack, I'm singing a nice Eagles song. Mm-hmm. But when I'm thinking, almost kind of parallel to that fight or flight, like it's like I'm in a thought mode. It's like all of a sudden the nerves just take over and you're done for, because literally the fingers start to lock, your voice starts to get constricted, you're nervous, and then you get conscientious because you're not in your relaxed state. So now you think you're not going to be performing and singing as well. And then it exacerbates it and it becomes a death trap for a musician if you fall into the nerves. And even some of the greatest musicians have expressed falling into that. I remember a great interview with Stevie Ray Vaughan, the great blues player, where he was asked, you're up there just wailing and looking so great and so natural and doing all you're doing. I mean, don't you ever get nervous? And he said, I get nervous all the time, my nerves, and of course, that's why a lot of musicians, are known, to have been involved with drugs, right? Smoking, drinking, because they're taking things to try to offset that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's possible for a person to develop a mindset, and which is what I did over a period of years. I came to realize, wait a minute, I'm just here having fun. Don't think, as a musician, you're at your best when you're just feeling, it's about feeling. So, yes. When I kind of taught myself that, even my experiences playing out became much more enjoyable, more natural. I felt better. I was like, man, I'm good. I'm a pro, man. I could be up there with Eric Clapton, right? Yeah. So yeah, a lot of musicians go through that. A lot of musicians suffer the nerves, getting on stage. Well,
and it's interesting you brought that up, because to touch back on the sympathetic, when the body, and again, you can't really think about it because it happens and it's already, it's too late. The sympathetic kicked in before you can realize it kicked in. And you can notice, you mentioned the musicians, they get nervous. Well, anybody in their field, when that happens, it's because when the sympathetic kicks in, guess what happens? The first thing that shuts down, because it's not necessary, is the frontal cortex. The frontal cortex is associated with rational thinking, right? Making good decisions. So when the frontal cortex shuts down during sympathetic activation, the last thing you're able to do is think clearly, right? And why does that happen? Because in a sympathetic response, the body doesn't care that you're going to say the nice things. The only thing that's at large is your survival. So the blood rushes to the arms and the legs so that you can run or punch or fight, right? Your stomach, you feel like you're going to have some kind of a bowel movement, because, I had horses, and when they get scared, they immediately release out their bowels because they need to be lighter to run. So the sympathetic nervous system, when it kicks in, it shuts down things that are not necessary at that moment for your survival. So when people go into that stress, which let's call it the sympathetic mode activated, then, you know, you get nervous, you can't think clearly. We've all been in that situation, right? We probably say the wrong things when we're mad.
Yeah.
And that's when you know the sympathetic activated, because your frontal cortex shut down.
Right.
And then in response, like you said, when you get nervous, then you want an immediate, oh my gosh, I want to feel good, right? Because we all want to feel good. Feeling good is normal for a human being, right? It's what are you doing to feel better? And that takes me to your question is, what am I doing for my clients and my patients here? And it sounds a little woo-woo, and because I live in Sedona, I know it's like, it's not just a cliche of Sedona here, it's really love. Love is the strongest force on this planet. And when people come here, and you can see my 5-star reviews on Google, which is all the clients who have actually been here, the recent 20+ 1 stars, they didn't say anything because they've never been here. So I either have 5-star or 1 star. But the people who have been here, they will, you know, put their testimony and say, I open my heart to them, because that is the first tool in any kind of healing, is to feel loved, to experience love. And then second to that is, I really want this person to, while they're here, to get to know themselves, because I'm only going to be with them, like I said, 3 to 5 days, right? Well, even when I moved here and I bought this land, it was kind of like, you know, I was in a psilocybin experience, and it's just told me like, there's nothing you have to do. You just got to show up. You know, and I was very scientific at that time, like give me empirical evidence on everything, right, for me to speak about. And now I know better. It's like, it comes from a place that you have to experience to really understand. And that's my position here, is I do my best to address their physical needs, right? Any pains, anything that I can help with acupuncture, Chinese herbs, like, all right, symptomatic, let's get to it. But more importantly is not just the symptoms, is I aim to look at the root. Why is somebody not sleeping? I'm not just going to give them some herbs or a pill or tell them to smoke a joint. Like, it's not about just fixing the symptom, because if the root, what's leading up to that, is not looked at, when they leave here, it's just going to come back again. Right. So the experience that I want to offer my clients and patients when they come here is to do a full inventory. And it's a private retreat because they spend a lot of time alone here too, which is really important because we've trained not to be alone. It's kind of like, oh, what do I do with my free time, right? And it's so important to activate the parasympathetic nervous system by learning how to just be. And I give them time alone, and they're like, what am I doing now? I don't know, go walk, go read, put headphones, go on the hammock, just play, right? Have you forgotten to play and have fun? Like when you're playing your music, you're just in that zone, right? When I'm doing in a yoga class here, that I'm not worried about positions. It's not about that. It's about sharing my love, sharing the experience, and allowing that person to feel safe. When people come here, I want them to feel safe, to feel like I'm going to respect their boundaries. I'm going to take care of them the best way I can.
You know, I don't know how much of my videos you've ever seen or watched, but, you know, I'm really intense when it comes to issues of, you know, a lot of what you're addressing, which I totally appreciate and respect. And really everybody on our side of the fence, so to speak, will appreciate, you know, what you're saying, you know, the reality of people finding, you know, the inner peace and the healthier way of eating, healthier lifestyles, you know, relaxation, meditation, prayer, you know, trying to be more in touch with nature, you know, all the wonderful things that you're referring to, that is ideally what should be the case for all of humanity. And now, you know, I don't want to bring this dark curtain into the conversation, right? But that those corrupt, evil forces that exist in this world, right, that are making people's lives so miserable. I just, for whatever reason, I'm kind of like determined to call them out, you know, and beat them. You know, I want to. I have a very strong, you know, here's a good example. Another wonderful, beautiful, awesome human being like yourself, if you're familiar with her, is Amanda Vollmer in Canada. Amanda Vollmer is Yum Naturals, I believe, is one of her websites. She's on our website. I'm going to get you on our website as well. You know, we have a scientist and doctors page, so I'll make sure I get you in there with links to your website.
Thank
Um,
you.
but Amanda Vollmer, we had a Zoom meeting with her, and you know, she was kind of making kind of a standard, almost typical, you know, kind of commentary with me and Brian about how, you know, you guys go have your big city, you go have your 5G, but you know, we're going to go get some nice land, kind of, you know, what you're describing with your property and your retreat, right? You know, people just wanting to go create communities in that regard, right? Which I'm all for, and I believe is what a big part of what needs to be done. But the notion that we can do that, right? Let's go create our little, you know, our safe zones and our properties and our farms, and we're going to live with nature. You know, I didn't come back on Amanda during that interview telling her no, but I addressed it afterwards, you know, in several videos saying, you know, referencing that, you know, Amanda Vollmer, you know, as wonderful as she is, as great as she is, when she mentioned in this Zoom video meeting, you know, that the idea of you go have your big cities and your 5G, but we're going to go over here. No, these people are monsters. And just like I saw the first movie Hunger Games and I thought it was stupid, so I didn't see 2 or 3. I think all of Hollywood movies, I mean, I like movies like anybody else. So I'll rent movies with my wife, you know, from Redbox. But every time I see a movie, my neighbor will come over. He's 76. My dad's 80. We'll watch the movie and I'm disappointed with all the garbage, the crap that they put in it. All kinds of unnecessary words and innuendos and perversion and immorality. It's not necessary. So I'm usually disappointed. But I rent the movie not knowing, and because I've seen good movies. You know, Hollywood, I always condemn them, but they've come out with some great movies before that were very realistic and entertaining and inspiring, right?
Mhm.
You know, it's the old saying, the devil mixes truth with air, right? It's almost as if they'll create the good movies so they can make people think they're going to see a good movie so they can feed them a bunch of crap. So I'm a real
Right.
anti-Hollywood guy. I really am an anti-mainstream media person. I really believe that, you know, it's all part of the communist manifesto. The communist approach is demoralize, break down people's morality, break down, you know,
Mhm.
their relationship with God, break down the family, traditional family values. It's all about, you know, make people immoral and perverted and vain and corrupt them, stupefy them. The media is all about that. So they're like my arch enemy. I'm their arch enemy. You know, I call them out all the time.
Mhm.
Hollywood, television programming, the video games, all of it. And
So
I feel
great.
bad for all of my fellow human beings who are being possessed by it and sucked into it and driven and manipulated and influenced by it. You know, I try
Right.
to encourage people to break away from that, not let themselves be enticed by the garbage. But even that becomes an individual thing, right? I mean, I
Mhm.
use my mind, like I say, I'll watch a movie, you know, and hope it's good, but I know when it's stupid. And unfortunately, a lot of times I'm watching it going, oh, geez, you know, this, you know, and people that are
Yes.
watching it with you don't want to be hearing all that, right? Let's watch the
Mhm.
movie, you know, and I'm sitting there criticizing it most of the time. But the fact that there are these forces in this world, right, that look, whether you're a Trump supporter or not, the 2020 presidential election was rigged in the sense that Joe Biden didn't win. Here's the thing. I have a problem with I was Donald J. Trump's greatest supporter. I really was his greatest supporter and support him for the first 3 years. I began to have a problem with him in his last term. First, because he didn't fully call out the coronavirus global pandemic scamdemic hoax. He did
Yeah.
call it a hoax in February, and we have that on our website. He did say that the PCR test was misleading. We have that on our website, but he never fully came right out and called it out. And I have on our website it's titled Trump's leaked speech.
I
And it's
saw
a
that.
speech that I wrote as if I was his speechwriter. Here, Trump, you need to get out. And this is the perfect speech to read to the American people.
Mhm.
You know, while you have doctors like Andrew Kaufman and Tom Cowan and Amanda Vollmer and Tom Barnett and Dr. All of the greats, you on stage with them saying, hey, people, here's reality. And him as the president, as the commander in chief, reading that speech. And folks, we've been deceived. I am your president. I believed viruses existed my whole life, that they were little creatures but we've just, it's all been a ruse. It's all been a big con job. We've been fooled. And he has the support system to be able to make that call. So the fact that I gave him that opportunity and I mailed that to him, I emailed it to him. I put it on his Facebook post, on his Twitters, thousands of links to that man to call out the coronavirus global pandemic hoax. So the first thing was he didn't do that. The second thing was he starts promoting unhealthy, poisonous, dangerous, deadly vaccines.
Yeah.
And then it was around that same time that I discovered that Donald J. Trump went to a Jesuit university. And in fact, the 3 Supreme Court justices that he appointed to our Supreme Court are all Jesuits. And Jesuits happen to be high up on the Roman Catholic Vatican hierarchy, type, system, right? It's like saying to the papacy, okay, I got 3 more Supreme Court justices for you here, in the United States. Now I can take this conversation another way and say, well, just because they're, Jesuits doesn't mean they're a bad person. That's true. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're just good people. Maybe Donald J. Trump has no clue about the history of the Roman Catholic Vatican institution and how they ruled the world supremely for 1,500 years and killed millions of Christians, right? And burned them at the stake simply because they didn't buy into their science and their religious teachings, right? Maybe he's ignorant to all that. It's hard for me to believe that. But the fact that he didn't call it out, he was pushing the vaccines, he appoints Jesuits into the Supreme Court, he filled his cabinet with Zionist Jews. I mean, it's the Zionist Jews. I always have to clarify in my videos, it's not about the Jews. No, my neighbor who comes over to my house is Jewish. He's my friend, my best friend from high school, a great drummer who I always fantasize playing in bands with him. He's Jewish. It's not about Jews. They came up with this anti-Semite thing to make people ashamed to point to the Zionist Jews who are trying to have a world order operation going on. But to the extent that there is an upper echelon group of people who call themselves Zionist Jews, and the argument can be made, in Revelation 3:9 in the Bible, it says them that call themselves Jews who are not Jews, but are liars. So these people might not even really be Jews, but they call themselves Zionist Jews. And they have a one world ambition, right? A one world globalist order. If people, and I always plug when I start talking about these issues, Europa, the Last Battle, which again, if you have not seen that, it is the top video on our videos page. You have to watch it. It's a 12 hours documentary, but it will completely fill in all the blanks and turn everything upside down about everything we know from the 1800s up to today. World War I, World War II, who was behind it, why they were behind it, what they were doing, what their objective is. And in a nutshell, you'll learn that these people that refer to themselves as Zionist Jews take a position that we Jews are smarter than anybody else. We are going to maintain our pure white ethnicity, and we're going to use our money to funnel peoples from all around the world into Germany and France and Italy and the United States, and we're going to amalgamate all the races into one homogeneous brown race of goyim, and we're going to rule over them. And we're going to use our Hollywood media to brainwash people, to stupefy people, and to have them where they're vaping and smoking and drinking and carousing, and there's no male, there's no female, there's no race, destroy what God made, right? Yeah. That's their goal, so that they can become the gods. We're gods. We've created this new brand of humanity, which they even want to implement technology into, right? Changing our genetic code, trying to mess around with genes, trying to destroy humanity, right? So they've got this ambition. To the extent that we can identify some of them, right? We can identify, we can say the names like the Rockefellers, or the fact that the Rothschilds family funded every single war, since the, Napoleonic Wars up to the current day. I mean, that tells you something. I don't like war. There's no reason for war. People don't hate each other. Yeah. There's nobody we don't dislike each other as human beings, but these governments are put into place, and this conversation can get deep, right? Because again, as you, I'm sure know, there's many Christians and this is complicated conversation for me to discuss because I'm aware of the fact that there are different sects of Christianity, right? But by and large, on the whole, you have hundreds of millions of people who understand life from a Christian perspective. They believe in God. They accept this notion that God came in the flesh and lived a perfect life as the man Jesus Christ, and he was a sacrificial lamb for all the bad that they've ever done, the sins of the world. He paid for their sins, and he died and rose from the dead, and he's seated at the hand of God, and he's going to come back in glory, right? And maybe you've heard some of my discussions on that. If that's true, there was a time when I surrendered to that. I said, because I don't know. Hey,
Right.
I think most human beings would say, well, I don't like religion. Sure. I mean, if it's true, that God incarnated as a human and lived a perfect life in the stead of my wretched life, and I can actually, say, forgive me, and now I'm forgiven because of his great works. So I'm accepted in the sight of God because of this perfect man. Who wouldn't accept that, right? I mean, great. Hallelujah. Thank you, right? But one of my things is I believe in there are some underlying psychologies within Christianity. You're a filthy rag. Only God is righteous. You're filthy, for instance, right? Maybe you've heard me harp on it before, where I say in Christianity, the three problems I have are, this is the devil's world. This is Satan's world. I'm waiting for Jesus to come back, and I'm not going to lay my treasures on this earth, but in heaven. No motivation here. No, no motivations to have any success here. I mean, what motivation does a person with that underlying psychology have to try to make this world a better place and clean it up? If they think this is Satan's world and they're just waiting on the Lord to come back, and I'm not going to lay my treasures here. They have zero motivation to try to take the reins and clean up this world and make it a better place. And if we don't clean it up, it comes back to the old wise saying, evil will prevail when good men and women do nothing. If you sit idly by, and the communists, all right, that's what they are. They're communists. It was the Jewish Bolshevik communist revolution, the high and mighty Jews of the 1800s that said, we Jews are smarter than everybody else, and we are going to use our money, which they have so much of, to control the affairs, and they own the media, so they can put out the narrative in the newspapers and on the big screen and on the television. So whatever they want people to hear, they can get them to hear it. This is problematic. This is problematic if there's a system in place. And again, going back to borrow from the Christian concept, I don't care if there's a Satan or a devil. He doesn't exist unless you allow him to exist, right? If you reject, even if he was literal and real, if you do not succumb to his vices and temptations and attempting to lure you into perversion and immorality and filth and denouncing God and destroying your own life and destroying the planet, if you don't succumb to that, he doesn't exist, right? Even if he exists, he doesn't, because he has no control over you. So that comes to that point of, it's about you. You're responsible, the individual, human beings. I believe I have this problem. Maybe you can help me, doctor. I have this problem that I kind of think that human beings are responsible for everything that goes on in this world. Oh my gosh, what a terrible, dreadful thought, Human beings are responsible. Stop with the devil made me do it, right? Stop with this is the devil's world. No, it's our world. It's our world that was given to us. We need to clean it up, right? We need to make it right. And these are issues that need to be addressed as well. I applaud what you're doing. And I wanted to give you the floor at the first, and I almost didn't want to speak because I know I can go on these tangents, and I didn't want to do that on your video. If you want, I'll cut all this out and just put you on.
No, I appreciate it.
I'll make 2 videos, right? But I think that, while I'm getting kind of deep here, I'm trying to make a profound point that, going back again to the example of Amanda Vollmer, you go have your big cities and your 5G, we're going to go over here and have some land. No, it's like in the movie Hunger Games, the girl with the bow, they're going to fly over with their hovercrafts. They're going to drop their little robots down, or their people, to take whoever they want, to rape, pillage, bring them to do their games. And they're still going to have manipulation and control over people. So we, the people, must take back the righteous reins on this earth to make it right. And that does have to do with a little thing called, with freedom comes responsibility. And this is a problem. When we give the media carte blanche to say and do absolutely anything they want, specifically in the public domain where our little children are exposed to it and can see it, you know, people say, oh, well, the parents are responsible. No, not anymore. Not in this world where just about every child has one of these. And if they don't, their friend does. So they can see their friend at 8 years old. What's that horse doing to that woman? Why is this woman letting that dog do that to her? You know, what are these 3 guys doing with that one woman? You know, at 8, 9, they can watch all kinds of pornography. Anything goes, bestiality. It's all there at the fingertips for our children, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. It's depraving their minds. They put it in movies, right? Again, I'll go see a movie thinking it's going to be a cool movie, a cowboy western, and they got to have their black cowboy telling the white cowboy to get down on his knees and suck him off. You know, it's sick. They constantly have to put all this twisted, perverted, immoral, vile stuff in their movies, and they do it in little subtle ways, drop, drop, drip, drop, because they're just, and then to get people in the movie theaters to laugh at it, you know, like it's funny when it's sick and perverted. So we have a problem here, doctor, that what you're doing is great. People are coming to you because of everything I'm telling you right now, okay? They're coming to you because of the corrupt, evil powers that be in this world that are destroying their natural, happy self. So they're coming to you, right? You're going to fix them. You're going to help get them back on track, and that's a great thing. But a big part of me is trying to say, somehow or another, true, you know, I always say, because it has to be conservatives, Christians, patriots, truthers, people that fall into those categories have to take the reins. You know, so going back to this rigged election, even if Donald J. Trump is in on it all, which I just told you why, unfortunately, as his greatest supporter, he didn't call out the hoax. He's pushing vaccines. He fills the Supreme Court with Jesuit Supreme Court justices. He fills his cabinet with Zionist Jews who have a one world globalist order. And he allows a rigged election to take place because as the commander in chief by law, he could have stopped the election based on foreign interference on our elections, on rigged voting machines, and didn't. So all of those things tell me that he was in on it. I'm sorry. You know, it's tragic. That's hard for a Trump supporter to grasp. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I want to say you're right on so many levels. Anything's possible. And that's what people need to realize is, first of all, you know, nothing is bigger than God, light, universe, whatever you call it. That is the light. And people can be distracted. And that is a big problem. When people come here, I notice a distraction. It's a distraction that's been since they were little kids, like you said, you know, the generation that's 5 now playing on phones. I don't know what's going to happen with those people, but everybody is responsible in their own individual level. And when people come here, I realize that the amount of distractions that they have in their head, the delusional thinking, because, you know, my first college degree was critical thinking, was comparative literature. So I didn't even know about that until I was in there, only because I spoke multiple languages. UC Irvine said that was a great degree for me. I really just kind of fell in my hands. But in that program, we learned to compare literature from different countries and different times in period. And it's always about that, is people have the choice and they choose the easiest path. That's just humanity. We're lazy. We're lazy beings. We'll choose the easiest path. You know, your friend Amanda, I'm not familiar with her, but it is. Even I chose that. I'm like, it's way easier to live here, this big property. We grow a bunch of food. We're chilled, you know, and then suddenly I start being attacked. And like I said, I went on this trip really because, you know, in that book by Michael Pollan, How to Change Your Mind, he taps on into a lot of things that we've forgotten, is to take wow moments, to take trips, even if it's a concert. Like, these wow moments give a moment for our brain to relax. He talks about how the brain gets so rigid, especially when we go into fear mode, when, you know, we're bombarded with these information. We're just like so rigid that we can't expand. And when we soften and relax, we can open to new things. And, you know, and it's important for these listeners. That's why I want to share this. It's like, look, you know, light's going to win, you know, in our time or in the future. What I know that, you know, dark side has done so much bad things that the karma is just too big. It just can't catch up. and God is above everything. 2 years ago, again, I was doing a plant medicine ceremony, and I'm always asking, dear creator, God, universe, what do you want me to do? Like, how do I make my time on this planet be of service, of light? It's not about the ego. It's not about money. I've always made enough to support myself. And the first thing that came to me is delete all your social media, which I did. I don't even have any social media. Like I found you because I was just looking for support.
Because God led you to me.
Yeah, and I got out of it
God put us together.
The message was, hey, enough little hiding, Fernanda. There's more you need to be doing here. And I'm all about doing the work. Like, in my book, I talk about my story. Like, I'm no lazy worker. I've started at the bottom, cleaning houses, and it's like, I'll do whatever it takes. At this ranch, I built all the fences. I broke 7 horses. I take care of things. I'm a doer. There's no way I'm going to sit around. Not to mention I have ADD, so I'm always doing something nonstop. But the thing is, it's like, how do we make our time? Because our time is our most valuable asset, second to our health, right? If we don't have health, then nothing can be done. So, I wake up in the morning after my meditations, like, oh my gosh, I have a whole day ahead of me, right? It's like, how can I make this day in service of the light to bring more things? And as much as I want to hide here, that's why I reached out to you. It's like, all right, if I need to go do something bigger, put me in that path, dear light,
Right.
and let me help more people in however I need to do, not at the comfort
Let me interject there. Let me interject there, because a big part of everything that's going on right now is the fact that they are using the concept of invasive, infectious, contagious microbial creatures that make you sick and spread to others, and you're now guilty of making somebody else sick. And it's a big lying facade. Where are you in terms of understanding? Where are you in terms of having, like most people, believed all your life that viruses exist, and actually knowing now that there's no such a thing as viruses? It's just 2 different realities, right? There are people that know there's no such thing as viruses, like I do now, but a year and a half ago, I thought viruses existed. So where are you at on the whole virus?
And I was reading on your website because I wanted to read as much as I could in it. Because I was taught in acupuncture school, and even in the master's and doctorate program, they use the word virus, but to my blessing, it wasn't about the virus. So I've been trained not to focus on this virus, whatever you want to call, right? We can put a word to anything. So my training is in going to the root. I don't care that you call it the flu. I don't care that you call X, Y, and Z. What we care is, how do we make the body able to heal itself? How do we bring healing into the body? And that's why, like you shared in your story about alcohol, when you stopped drinking, you didn't get sick. So my training is exactly that. It's, how do I eat healthy? I talk about body type in my website. Everybody has different body types. It's like, not everybody should eat meat, but some people absolutely should eat meat, organic for sure. But there are different things that our body needs at different times. So we don't, in Chinese medicine, we don't care the names. We don't go by, oh, you have lupus, let me treat that. We look at, what is your body showing? What's happening in you? Where's the disharmony that we can bring balance? So it's almost like math, if it's too much heat, we want to cool it down. If it's too cold, we want to heat it up. It's all about yin and yang. So
right.
I don't get too attached to that word.
I need to interject there again, because this is where, I don't know if you saw our Zoom meeting with Dr. Christiane Northrup.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that's on our website. Yeah, it's probably, I think it's on our page that says live Zoom meetings with our Zoom meetings. It's probably on that page. But we did do a Zoom meeting with Dr. Christiane Northrup. And I agree with everything you say in terms of praising her as being an incredibly wonderful woman, very smart, very spiritual. Again, I mean, her own testimony about herself speaks, volumes, right? She was Woman of the Year, right? One of the 100 top women people of the year. She was this wonderful person who was praised for all the great things she's doing. And now they're condemning her and criticizing her because she's speaking out against this vaccine. And in our interview with her, one of the things that concerns some people that saw that interview, that we know that are on board with the fact that there's no viruses, is how she kind of, when we put that to her, she did say, well, I agree with, I'm paraphrasing what she said. You'll see it in the video. But, I agree with you, Mike. I agree with what you're saying. There's no viruses and they're using it against people. But we can't muddy the waters, because that's too much for most people to kind of grasp. And so we just got to really focus on these deadly vaccines. But and we didn't argue back with her at that point, but you know, in retrospect afterwards, and from some other people we know that saw the video, they were like, man, why didn't you right there tell her, wait, Dr. Christine Northrup, with all due respect, no, it's because of the concept of viruses that they're even trying to give this vaccine. And if it's not this, and if it's not this vaccine, what about another vaccine? Are you good with other vaccines? Because that's another problem we have. I've called out Dr. Peter McCullough. Are you familiar with him?
No.
Okay, Dr. Peter McCullough seems to be making his rounds now on social media, where everybody seems to think he's the great guy now that's speaking out, because he's speaking out against COVID. But yet, by his own admission, he says that viruses exist and he's pro-vax. That's a problem. These doctors are wrong. I don't care if they have a PhD. They were simply trained through a system that coercively manipulated them with their books and their propaganda and their false teachings into having these ideas about viruses. But the fact of the matter is, I've looked into it ad nauseum to the maximum degree possible. And is all we know is that our bodies are made up of cells, which we can see under a microscope. And we know that those cells have processes like phagocytosis, where white blood cells, phagocytes will go around, and when there's foreign matter or poisons or toxins or even dying cells, they will go gobble up and essentially emulsify and digest that into a solvent so that it can rid it from the body. Right? So we have cell debris, and the cells are highly complex. So they break down, and they start to break down into many, many little particles of RNA and DNA and complex strands. And it's all they've done over the years is point to those little particles. It's like an excuse for them to say, hey, we want to sell these vaccines, right?
Yeah.
We'll say these little particles are viruses that are causing people to get sick. So they're it's a complete manipulation. One of the earliest things that I discovered when I started looking into this, and I just had somebody the other day call me and kind of harp on the same issue with me, that they were claiming, they will tell you that viruses can only be seen under a scanning electron microscope. You need a scanning electron microscope to see these little viruses. They will also tell you viruses were discovered in 1895, but they will also tell you that the scanning electron microscope was invented in 1933, right? You see a little contradiction there? We're gonna call viruses, which started based on the idea of a tobacco leaf, withering away, right? And it was some form of fungus growth, right? But as time went on, one of the most valuable pieces of information on our website is the poisoned needle, because going back to 1954, it's just left me. The poison needle, let me see here. Let me just go to my website. It's like right on the tip of my brain. I want to say her name. I want to say her name. Eleanor McBean. I didn't look it up. It came to me first.
Nice.
Dr. Eleanor McBean, a Black female doctor in the 1950s, her and her colleagues, like 2 or 3 doctors, compiled everything that in the 50s they could, through their research, compile, that went all the way back into the 1800s, showing a manipulative process of this snake oil salesman's wanting to sell potions kind of evolving into, making false claims about diseases and things so that they could sell potions. And it like everything, evolved, right? It evolved into a more complex system that ultimately became the pharmaceutical industry. So, you know, for all practical purposes, when we have this image in our mind of snake oil salesmen in the early 1800s on a horse and wagon, you know, going from town to town, trying to sell a little vial of, I got the cure for all your potions, you know, the
Right.
potion for, you know, to cure all your ailments, right? Snake oil salesmen, right?
Mhm.
That's like the roots of the pharmaceutical industry,
Right.
Create something that we can sell you and claim it's going to create, you know, cure your ailments, right?
Still happening today.
Right. So when you go back into the late 1800s, into the early 1900s, right, where you have kind of a combination of people that are doctors, and maybe I can make money if I, you know, come up and I can tell, just that kind of folding over, you know, doctors and people that want to make money and snake oil salesmen. And all of a sudden by the 30s, we have an electron microscope where we see these little dots. It's like, hey, we'll tell people these little dots are where their ailments is coming from. I mean, it literally came into being in that way, the concept of viruses. How do we know this? Because we know not only that there's that history of the evolution of snake oil salesmen and profiting off of cures and eventually being able to see little specks, and then it all just kind of coming together where now they're asking for millions of dollars from the government so that they can investigate these little specks, right? And then it becomes profitable, and then they build their corporations, and then they build their shell companies, and then they build their nonprofits, and they ask the government for more money, and then the government politicians are getting paid off by them. So it becomes this big corrupt monstrosity where now they've got this perfect system where they can manipulate and control people through ignorance and fear, because it's an invisible enemy. You can't see it, but we're the pros, we're the experts. We know what's here, and we're telling you what it is. What a perfect proof, you know, like a foolproof system to be able to manipulate and control people. And now as technology comes on the scene, now they can start folding technology into the vaccines where, hey guys, we can put these little chips in people with the vaccines and we can track them and see where they're going and what they're doing. And we can monitor their heart rate, and we can see what stores they're going into. So we can now up our marketing game because we know what to market to them on their cell phone and their computer desktop, because we know what stores they frequent. Hey, the world's getting overpopulated. Hey, we can also put some graphene oxide in here, and we can turn up to 5G, and we can make people get sick. And that helps fund our medical industry. So now we can make people sick with these vaccines. Hey, you know what? Population's a problem. Turn it up a little higher, make them start dying. Now we can kill people too. I mean, it's the perfect system for manipulating and controlling people through ignorance and fear. And it's all based off of a concept that I take full credit for. Thank you very much for saying that viruses are nothing more than a concept.
I agree with you.
Strategically fabricated, cleverly concocted, cunningly crafted, and devilishly devised. I take credit for those words. Thank you. That's what it is. That's what it is. And they're using it to manipulate and coerce and control people into taking their damn vaccines for profit and for illness and for perpetuating the medical industry and for tracking people and ultimately for killing people.
Yes.
That's what they're doing. So how important is it for people to know that viruses don't exist?
I agree with you. And I just want to say in defense to Dr. Christian Northrup that it's probably because it's such a big concept for most people to swallow that I love your passion and I hear what you're saying, because like I told you in my training, when people come here and they say, oh, I have the flu virus, I don't care what they say. What I care is, what are the symptoms in your body? How can we bring it to harmony? So I never even swallow that, like that's not even a diagnosis.
I know, and forgive me for interrupting you, but again, maybe that you just said a minute ago, maybe God has a bigger picture for me, right? Maybe there's more I need to do, you know, and you don't have to defend Christiane, because, you know, I love her, and I even concurred with her. You're right, that's a big deal. Go after shutting down these poisonous vaccines. But again, the critique afterwards that we even thought about and people were telling us was, man, why didn't you stop at that point and say, wait, and have the spiel I just had with you? with her. But
Right,
Dr.
right.
Christiane, do you understand that it's
I
because
understand what you're saying.
Right.
I understand and appreciate that. I just know, because I, even with my things, when I have to explain yin and yang and the balance of the body, people are so deeply programmed, Mike, as you know. People are
Well, help us deprogram them. We have to
you go by
deprogram them.
what I've learned is that you find a starting point, right? I used to break horses. You can't just go and put a halter on them. My first starting point is, make eye contact, or, let them do the follow up. And there's just building blocks that I don't want to spook anybody. I need to find my entry point with certain people. So, my goal is for the best of the person, for sure. But I also know that if I go too strong, or if I bring something that they are already shut down, they're not going to hear anything else. So I think what Dr. Christiane Northrup is, maybe trying to say is that let's start with where we can make a difference. And I completely support you and agree with you. And I wish everybody would understand what you're trying to bring forward. Is just, we need to find the language that gets people to even open up a little bit, right? Because not everybody, whether have had many lives in this life, or experiences, or even critical thinking opportunities, or even been taught to be open to something other than their own, rigid views. So, there are different ways. Some people are by watching you. Some people are by having a terrible, ailment that they need to try something they never thought of before to have that miraculous experience. Some people, it's do an ayahuasca ceremony or psilocybin. It just depends. Everybody's in a different point.
But I got to be honest with you. I think that people, you mentioned earlier about people that got vaccinated and came to see you, and what a contradiction that is, right? Two
Yes.
polar opposites. So I really think that your greater clientele base would be people that know viruses don't exist, because it's not viruses. There's no such things as viruses.
Right.
But I'm trying to find some peace and get back in touch with myself. And I want to get the proper diet, and I want to get some acupuncture, and I want to feel better. I know there's no viruses that are adversely affecting me. Something is, let's get to the bottom of it. So they're really your stronger clientele.
Hey, I would love to have those people here and make my time like you playing your favorite music without thinking about the keys on your fingers.
Right.
It would be fun for me. And I've had a lot of those people, and I give them extra things that are not even part of the retreat, because I know those people are so open that I don't have to hold back. And that's really, the kind of people I'd like to see.
And I want to say this just for the record on the video here, because I was saying the reason we know this is because, the snake oil evolved into this. And, and again, Dr. Eleanor McBean and her associates compiled all this information, and we could see this track record of an evolving monstrosity. But the other side of it, coming back from where we're at now as well, is the fact that people like Dr. Andrew Kaufman and Dr. Tom Cowan have helped to validate and prove that they have science. It's a factual statement to say that they have never, ever isolated and purified what they're calling a virus and been able to set it aside and say, here's the virus. They've never been able to do that. And they've never been able to take that and say, here's the virus, and then put it in a healthy organism and make them sick. It's never been done. That's a factual statement. What they do is they have this concocted system, right, of taking some piece of dead material that's already dead and dying. It's already cells that are dying and decaying, putting it in some vat with a bunch of chemicals, starving the cells, making some process that causes the cells to break down, and then saying, hey, look, there's the virus. Where Dr. Stefan Lanka did an experiment a few months ago. It's on our top, I think it's the top video on our viruses page, where he did the experiment. There was a Dr. Enders way back, I think in the 50s as well, who did an experiment saying, to paraphrase it, hey, look, these cells are breaking down under the microscope here, and they look identical to what you're calling a virus over here, but there's no viral material here. What's going on? And they swept it under the rug. So Dr. Stefan Lanka recently, a few months ago, did the same experiment, and he showed and proved how the cell itself, with no alleged viral association, no viral contagion, no alleged viral anything in the specimen, that just when the cell itself was breaking down and starting to fragment, it creates the exact same little particle that over here they're trying to say, after putting cells in chemicals and starving them and putting them through a whole process and then saying, oh, look, here it is. It's the same. So it's been proven that it's a hoax. It's the big virus hoax that they're using to manipulate and control people through ignorance, because people don't know any better. They don't know what a virus is. They only know what they're being told in the lying fake news mainstream media and the little cartoon animations, which isn't reality. Cartoon animations aren't reality, right?
Right.
So they're being, through that, manipulated with fear, right? I could die. I could make grandma sick. It's contagious. I don't want to be responsible. They put guilt on people, and now they can line them up to go get their vaccine, which now they're even saying you can still catch it after you get your vaccine, because it's all BS. They want to be able to keep pushing a new strain even. Oh, the Delta strain. Now it mutated. The virus, which is a non-living particle with no eyes, no mouth, no nose, no arms, no wings, no legs, no digestive system, no reproductive system, a particle, it mutated. It became something else. And now you got to be aware of it. It's sick what these people are doing. And that's precisely what they're doing. So they're making people, and doctor, tell me the news. You have to jump on board, even if it takes you a little more time to watch more of the videos from Tom Cowan, and everything's on our website. I mean, it's all, there's a lot there. There is a lot to digest on our website. Yes, there is a lot.
I appreciate it. And I hope that more people even, get open to that idea. And like I said, my position here with Chinese medicine is, again, there's no viruses. What are the symptoms? What are you experiencing? And then we treat those conditions and then harmonize the body and bring balance so the body can defend itself from whatever it is, something inside, right? It's not our language to even diagnose this with that word of virus. We don't use that. So.
Right. And like you said, you do focus on the nutrition and the health and the way of eating. I'm sure I would imagine you tell people that alcohol kills white blood cells.
I tell people that alcohol, soda, cigarettes, all these things just lower, that ability for the body to have harmonized, to find healing. Because in Chinese medicine, 6,000-year-old medicine, it will, say in the old books, how given the right condition, the body will heal itself. That's just what's going to happen. So what are you doing to create that opportunity for your body to heal?
Right. And you're giving people a great place to go to be able to get healed, get back on track, get healed. Would you say that when they're there, you would say you're giving them the tools, it's a process after they leave, or are you kind of healing them there? Are you giving them?
I think the healing begins when they sign up, because when the body lets you know, hey, I have a pain in my knee, I have a discomfort in my shoulder, or I feel unhappy, like that's something letting you know, hey, look at me, right? A child is hungry, tugging at your skirt, please feed me. So it's kind of like, all right, let's look at it. So when people reach for me, I already know that they're hearing that voice, whether it's emotional pain, physical pain, or spiritual pain. So by the time they get here, they've already made a decision to do something about it. So that's a great first step, because I can't pull people here. The second thing is, when they're here, like I said, I offer them a safe space and a place with love, because at that point I've committed to be present for that person. I'm literally loving that person and wanting the best for them. And my job is also to know, that's why it's like I have to find my way in, because if I push too hard, it's not about my agenda, it's where is this person at and what can they get? Because some people come here and, like I already told you, I can give them 300% of what I would give. And some people I can only give maybe 20% because they're not going to get it. And I've learned this the hard way, to release the need to push anything on anybody with such force that it goes against. My goal is that person to come here, to have that awakening. Something needs to change in their lives, because as it is, continuing is not going to be good. So if they can make that, that's a great check mark. The second one is to share with them, not shove down their throat, some tools, and all the tools that I offer on my website. I have tons of different things that are not even there, that I say for really private, more open-minded people. And finally, it's really in each person's hands to take charge. So when they come here, I give them a basket of some goodies, and one of the things is a journal, because I tell them, I'm not going to be with you next week. You need to be in charge of what you're doing. Set your goals, check on them. It's okay to change your goals. Look at your vision board, what's working, what's not, because every day we're faced with some challenge, right? Whether it's the weather, whether it's a food shortage, whether it's a comment, whether it's a choice to even get off the bed. And I can't be there next to that person saying, hey, eat this, or yeah, get up and do 5 minutes of stretching. They need to make that decision. So while they're here, we exercise those things together. We wake up, we go for a walk. When I have the opportunity to sign up for foods, I'm cooking all their meals from scratch, organic. And again, it's based on their body type, because I also evaluate that and teach people. It's not about the latest fad on Facebook or whatever media out there. Everybody should eat ginger. No, somebody, and this is based on acupuncture, some bodies already have too much heat. The last thing you want to put is turmeric or ginger or spicy foods. So it's not about just doing what's the latest thing on the news. It's really understanding what's working for me. What are my symptoms? Like the 3 top questions an acupuncturist will ask to make sure you're healthy are: how's your sleep? How's your appetite? And how are your bowel movements? Those 3 things will indicate if something is out of balance, right? Then we know. I mean, I could write a whole book on poop. If I ask people, is your poop long and skinny? Like, I already know they have sling chi deficiency, which is like they're losing vitality. So it's such a holistic care. That's what I'm saying. And when they show up here, I have to observe all the different parts of their lives and give them tools that they can go home and implement, and not overwhelm them or discourage them.
Right. That's great. That's awesome what you're doing. And let me tell you, this video, if I put this video on YouTube, it'll get taken down because of what I'm saying, but not because of anything you're saying. So feel free to take this video when I send it to you. I'm going to post it like it is on BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble and Brighteon. Those are the 4 I post to.
Right.
Every video I put, YouTube takes it down. I've lost several YouTube channels, and
yeah,
every
I
time
saw on your website.
Yeah, and they always take it down, always. I've got some channels now that are up, so I don't put any more videos, In fact, sometimes I take my YouTube channel just to kind of convert it. I'll upload to YouTube and then catch it with my capture, and then I'll delete it off YouTube because I know they'll delete it. But if you have your own ability to edit, feel free to edit out maybe only when I was asking something that caused you to respond the way you do so wonderfully. You can cut, clip, copy, because just the way you speak and the way you present what you do is awesome. So that would make great video footage for you as well. So feel free to edit in any way you want this video. That's going to be fine with me.
Thank you.
If you ever want to do another, show, we can do that. I guess I can put you on the spot and ask you, because I'm sure you still have some things. We're all always learning, right? We always have things to learn. So I do encourage you, just as I encourage, again, I mentioned Dr. Peter McCullough earlier. It's not like I absolutely condemn the man, right? I just am pointing out that here he's a doctor that everybody thinks is doing such a great thing because he's speaking against the COVID jab, but he's still pro-vax, and he's saying viruses exist when they don't. That's a problem. We got to get people to stop. The doctors, there's doctors. They need to be retrained. They need to be reconditioned on their understanding of what a virus is. They need to realize, wait a minute, it's true. There's never been an isolated, purified virus and put into a healthy specimen. How can they say people are getting infected by it? Let alone the foolishness of it. The idea wearing face diapers and rebreathing your own carbon dioxide and your own mouth-filled bacterial waste, when it's not even going to stop. If it existed for, a particle that small, it's going to go right through. It's just, the whole thing is absurdity. We all know it's all about control. It's all about control. It's all about turning people into the sheeple, making them submissive, molding and manipulating them to become subservient and dependent upon that corrupt power that be, which again, I'm going after them, right? That's just in my blood, to call out the corruption, call out the evil, and to try to organize warriors and patriots that will unite and take out properly, legally and in a smart fashion, take back the reins, to make the world a better place. That's where I'm coming from. Because if there's a Jesus Christ that's coming back, I'm all for it. In my opinion, he's late. if really, and I'm not saying that sarcastically, facetiously, or disrespectful to God. If you're there, Jesus, in my opinion, you're late, because in my opinion, this world is in far worse condition than most people realize. So everything you're doing is wonderful. I applaud it. And it's all great. That essentially is a way to help people in this crazy world to have better peace for themselves and get back on track and get a better diet and feel better and get in tune with their spirituality. I mean, we haven't even touched on the fullness of what you do. When somebody goes to your ranch and you're dealing with them personal, that's 1,000-fold of anything we've even discussed in this video, I'm sure.
Right.
So, but what you're doing is wonderful work that needs to be done. And I'm glad, like I said, you can edit this video and you'll find all kinds of wonderful sound bites for you to promote what you're doing and get it out there. If you do edit it, send it to me and I'll re-upload it as well. Just how you've edited it. I need to get my thoughts out there, obviously, because, there are people that will see this video that are going to gravitate to everything you're saying much more than anything I've said. There are people going to gravitate right to what they hear me saying and want to be like, yeah, man, come on, doctor, you get with this guy. There's no viruses. We can't be having people believing in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. So putting you on the spot would be this. I told you I'm going to put a link to your website on thebigvirushoax.com. So would you be willing to put a link to thebigvirushoax.com on your website, just to say, if you want more understanding about viruses and whether they exist or not, here's a great hub to go to.
I think it's already on my website. If I can't remember, I have a tab called FYI, which I get attacked on.
All right, super.
And
if you got a link, I appreciate
some things there. So I'll double check, but I don't mind sharing. I share all kinds of stuff on that link on my website. So I'll put that too.
I put it on the top of your home page, okay? No, but yeah, I do applaud what you're doing. And to be honest with you, that's kind of consistent with my own little fantasies about, like, going back to the point of, another aspect of that thing of, hey, we'll go get our land, you go have your 5G cities. Again, I think that's problematic because, we need to take care of the corrupt evildoers, because otherwise they're going to be, they're going to be messing with all you innocent people, right, that are out there trying to do the right thing on your properties. So we got to put an end to that. But in theory, right, if I hit the Powerball, right, if I was a multimillionaire, I mean, I would certainly be going, not that you have to be a millionaire, right, to go to your facility. But for me, I always think beyond. It's like I'm always asking for supporters, because for me, if I had the right support system, I would literally be getting a van and wrapping it with all the right sayings and a megaphone and video recorders and a crew. And I'd be going from mayor's office to mayor's office, sheriff's office to sheriff, governor to governor, throughout the state, to Washington, D.C., to the Department of Homeland Security, to the Department of Justice, with the video cameras, calling them out, putting them on record for where they stand on issues, right? There's some other issues we could talk here. I'll just allude to it. I don't know if you're familiar with this thing about being a United States citizen versus being a state national. Yeah, you're not even familiar with it. And that's because you're originally from Brazil, right? And are you a citizen or resident?
A citizen.
So you became a citizen, right? You mentioned that earlier. So in a nutshell, there's a lot of people out there right now that are doing a lot of videos talking about the fact that essentially the United States of America became a corporation in the late 1800s. So there's the United States of America, we the people, the United States Constitution, right? And we the people and our rights, but that was all kind of overshadowed now by, in a nutshell, these group of bankers that got together. If you ever heard of Jekyll Island, where the bankers in the early 1900s were talking about how they're going to use this system where they can now at birth tag people based on their birth certificates, where they're registering them as a property owned by the corporation.
Oh yeah, I've heard about it. That's why our names are in capital letters at the end. Right,
exactly. So to the extent, this is something, again, that I'll go to Washington. And because I tell people all the time, I don't care if I'm a U.S. citizen or a state national, I'm going to stand for my God-given inalienable rights, which are protected by the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and federal civil rights, period. And that's what I'm going to stand for, in U.S. code. I don't care what my designation is. A lot of these people will try to say that, well, no, because you're a citizen and therefore you really don't have these rights. I say BS to that. No, I still have those rights because I'm declaring them and I'm demanding them. And I believe when you take that position, even they know, the corporation is like, don't mess with this guy because he's going to get us, he's going to shine the light on us. But that's what I'll do. I mean, I would go to Washington and say, excuse me, Senator, I have a very important question for you. Do you understand yourself as working for the United States of America, a corporation, a corporate entity, or for the actual original United States of America? Do you know? You know, and get their take on it. You know, because, you know, there's this concept out here, guys, senators, Congress people, where people are even confused. Let's make it clear for them, shall we? Let's make it clear for them, shall we? Right? So I say often, I hate and I despise deceptions, lies, corruption, evil, you know, deceit. I don't like it. Keeping things in the shadows. I believe in total, complete transparency and openness and honesty. That's how I am. So that needs to be the case for the people, for not only for the American people, but for people around the world. Absolutely. Right? They need to know where they stand with their God-given inalienable rights. And there are worldwide laws, right, that protect people's rights that are being violated right now. Geneva Convention, and the other, what's it called, after World War II, where they said, no, there'll be no medical intervention on people against their will without consent. But that's the direction they're trying to go. Right? They're trying to get it where, you know, you hear all this talk about they're going to force vaccinations. Just for the record, for you and for everybody watching this video, we keep hearing all this stuff about, oh, Joe Biden, he's going to make an executive order for people to mandatory vaccination. Let me again reiterate to people, all executive orders, all of them, whether they are federal, state, or local, only apply to the government. They only apply to the government and government entities. They do not apply to the people. They do not apply to the people. So we are immune from, in other words, it's like when Trump was in office and he was saying, well, Joe's going to get in there and he's going to put a national mandate on everybody to have to wear masks, right? And everybody was scared of that. But notice when Joe got in, he even said on public television, I'm going to do a national mandate for masks in federal buildings. He had to make that distinction because that's all he can do. He can only make a federal mandate for federal institutions, federal employees. And even for the federal employees, because my son is a federal firefighter. He's a hotshot firefighter out in Northern California. He's out there fighting fires right now. And my son called me the other day and said, hey, Dad, man, I'm being told now that the federal government's going to make mandatory vaccinations. I said, don't worry about it, son. We're going to fight it because you have rights too. Even as a federal employee, you have the right. You have rights. You have federal civil rights. And they're trying to take those away from people. So that's what I'm fighting for, is my rights, your rights, all of our rights, because we do have rights. And they're trying to take those rights away from us. And they're very cunningly doing it. They are. They're manipulating people into acquiescing to their rights being taken away from them. They're not standing up for their rights. They don't even know what their rights are. They've never read the Constitution. They've never read U.S. Code 42, U.S. Code 18. You know, they've never read, you know, the Declaration of Independence. They just hear about it. Oh, I'm an American citizen. I got my rights. You know, it's the Constitution. Yet they're watching it being stripped away from them all over the place. So people need to stand up for their rights and their dignity. And they need to know that all government mandates, federal, state, or local, only apply to those entities, to those institutions. And even the employees still have federal civil rights where they can say, no, I pass on that.
That's great that you mentioned that.
And let me say this, gab.com. Are you on Gab?
No, I don't watch TV. I only get on the computer.
All right, well, here you go. All right, you've heard of Facebook, of course.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Right. They're communists. They literally, Twitter, they are communists. They're censoring what people can say. They've literally done away with the First Amendment through social media censorship, which is a violation not only of people's free speech and freedom of the press, it is a violation of their rights under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and under the United States Constitution, under the Bill of Rights. They're violating people's right to free speech, free expression, and freedom of the press. But also they're violating people's rights under free and fair trade and commerce. Because if somebody builds a platform and that's their business, and they just take it away from them. They're violating their rights.
That happened to me. I've been #1 or 3 max on Google page for the past 3 years. No doubt about it. Now you can't even find me.
Right. And that's
It's
why
the craziest thing.
it is. And so this is what I'm going after, right? Exposing this. So again, if I was financially independent, and I would say, if I get to the point where I have 100 supporters that are committing to $50 a month, that would be $5,000 a month coming into me. I would be using that money to hit the road. I'd be going to every sheriff's office, every mayor's office, bringing the laws with me, getting them on record. Where do you stand on these laws and the people's rights? Where do you stand on this concept of U.S. citizen versus state national? What do you think it means? I'd be questioning them all and putting them on record and uploading it to YouTube, BitChute, everywhere. I mean, that's what I want to do. And I'd be stopping in Arizona for a 3-day, cure.
We have a great governor here, Ducey.
Do you?
He's not going for the mask mandate, but he's being attacked for it.
Well, good. And of course, here in your governor, or did you say our governor?
Ours, yeah.
All right, good. Yeah, because ours, as you know, too, is Ron DeSantis is doing good so far. So far, so good.
Where are you at?
Florida.
Oh yeah, I love Florida. I'm actually buying a condo there.
Yeah, awesome. You're thinking about it, or you did?
Yeah, no, I have another home somewhere that is like, I think I want to go to Florida. It's a nice, good state. It resonates with my energy, and
it is. And there's a lot of nice places throughout this state, especially in Central Florida. I mean, what you would totally love, because again, going back to if I won the Powerball and I was financially independent, honestly, all I would be doing is living for health and fitness and nature. It's like I'd be doing triathlons and tree climbing and rock climbing and biking and swimming and diving and eating just fruits and salads and, fresh fish and water and green smoothies. And I'd be like Tarzan, and going to the springs. The Florida has all these beautiful springs, beautiful springs all around Florida. I'd be living in them. I mean, that's my fantasy, to be able to live that way, And I did jokingly say, for the record, the other day to my buddy Brian, I said, if there's a God, which I believe we're here by creative design, I believe in the almighty creator, and he could do anything. I mean, I believe the creator can do anything. I don't believe he necessarily interferes. He created life, and, we got to do what we got to do. But to the extent the creator can make things happen, then if I'm willing to do all this stuff that I said I'm willing to do, and yet I can't in a year seem to get the support system to do it, and I played Powerball and lottery, if God wanted me to hit the road and go do all these great things on behalf of people, he'd let me win the Powerball, right? Because then I'd have the money to do it. So since he didn't
do the Powerball, you believe that?
Well, no, it probably is a facade, but who knows? I mean, maybe because there are different levels of them, So I do think that there are people that have won, sizable amounts of money. Although I think there may be a lot of fallacy to it as well. It's a put on, perhaps. But if I was financially independent, the creator can make me financially independent so that I can go out and do those things. And since he didn't, then maybe that's not what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Logically.
Or maybe you can. Maybe you think you need more than you need to get on the roads. I just got on the road this summer with my RV, and I've offered acupuncture for veterans for free, for first responders. It's like I always get a plate of food. So
right.
I don't make money be my goal. I only do if I have money. I do what I want to do every time. And and when we're in the right path, we get help and we get assistance. So maybe if that's what you feel like you need to do, get on the road. It doesn't have to be forever. It could be for a month.
Yeah. But the problem too is, my home life situation, my wife's from Venezuela, and she has, kids that she helps support back home, and her mom. And so she does, she's a great artist, and does party decorations, does amazing work. In fact, I should show something. Mama. Here it is. Let me show you a couple things for fun. She does all these cool characters. You can see them.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. What an artist.
Yeah, she, like for party decorations, like she just makes them out of foam. It's called foami. But just a lot of cool characters and things that she does. There's olive oil and Popeye. My wife looks just like olive oil, by the way. If you see olive oil there. Yeah. That's basically what my wife looks like. So but So, you know, she has, you know, some cleaning jobs. You said you did cleaning in the past, you know, we got to work our way through life and do whatever we got to do. So she's got some, you know, places that she'll clean and I go and help her. And, you know,
Mhm.
um, it's just kind of a thing where, you know, yeah, I'm in that starving artist syndrome, you know, I'm not the
Yeah.
guy that, I'm not the guy that became the professional, you know, with, you know, the degrees, you know, you got your PhD degree, which is admirable. You know, I didn't take that route of doctor, attorney, you know, engineer, get the degree.
Mhm.
And I also, you know, I was a carpenter out of high school, apprentice carpenter,
Wow.
but I didn't stick with that. You know, my dad was a superintendent for a general contractor. I could have worked my way up and became like a superintendent, but it just wasn't for me. And because I was a
Mhm.
musician from childhood, it was always like I was always trying to, you know, cultivate those abilities because I was kind of a late bloomer. So I end up being this starving artist guy, right? You know, where when you have something like this take place before COVID, I was going into students' homes, in people's homes, and teaching their children piano and guitar and drums and bass. And I was playing all around town at different clubs, at Bayside Marketplace and Black Point
Mm.
Marina, and you know, as a solo artist,
What
singing
a
and playing.
skill.
Yeah,
I try to play guitar. I just can't because I'm too much in my head about learning
well,
it.
you can if you had me there, because I always boasted as being the greatest guitar teacher on planet Earth, because I was
That's
really passionate.
great.
Yeah, very passionate. I have a good way of getting somebody to just grasp it and get it. Like I'll show them how to use their fingers and give them little
I
exercises.
have a guitar here, brand new, that I bought like 10 years ago. I've never used it because I just,
All right, go
I
grab
gave
it real
up.
quick. Go grab it real quick. We'll call this bonus footage.
I actually have to go because I have a client coming, but
Oh,
let
do
me
you? Okay. Okay, so take your thumb, this outside edge, and just kind of use the thumb to kind of pluck on that sixth string, the fat
this
one.
one
Yeah, the
got
big fat
ripped.
one. Yeah, the one that looks like the top is actually the bottom because it has a low sound, right?
Okay.
And the one that looks like it would be on the bottom is considered the top because it has a high sound. So that bottom string, you would just kind of use your thumb. Yeah, go to the bottom string on the top, the big
The
thick
top one is
Yeah.
ripped.
Oh, is it?
Well, I
broke?
think my cat got to it because it
Oh,
looks
right.
like
Oh, okay. Well, just kind of play with it though, with your thumb. That thumb would play that string, and then the next string your thumb would play, and the next string, those top three strings. But then that third string up, that third string, 1, 2, 3, counting from the
Yeah.
bottom up, 1, 2,
Yeah.
3. Use your pointer finger. Use your pointer finger and just kind of pluck it with your pointer finger. And then the next string, use your middle finger on the next string. Yeah, you got
One at a
frozen.
time?
You froze on me. We're both froze. Do you see us frozen on the screen?
No, it looks good on my side.
Okay, yeah, I got us both frozen. I just see me with my hand sticking in there. And let me see. I'm going to turn off my sound for a second. See if I can get it to come back. Your battery's low. Uh-oh. It says my battery's low.
Well, we can catch up another time if you'd like.
Oh, wait. Oh, man, please don't go off on me, computer. We don't want to lose this. We don't want to lose this.